and it's Megan, and she's out here with her kid. This is set up. I gotta go deal with Emmy. Nice to meet you. Have fun.
Dash is about 9 months old now, and he is a two-toed sloth. Although it makes more sense to say two-fingered sloth because it's the front feet where they have two, and then all sloths have 3 toes on the back. And he's a lot darker. You can see the difference between him and Flash. He's a lot more of a cream color on his back. When they're first born, they're like that dark chocolatey mocha color, and they're not born with that moss and algae that they start to form over time when they're rained on in the rainforest and everything. But they need some form of camouflage. So them being darker like that, it's a lot easier for them to lay on the chest of the mother and kind of blend into her, rather than if they were to be a light color.
What is his diet right now?
So right now, the breeder has them transitioned over from once they're weaned from the mother, they transition onto a mixture of brown rice, shaved up sweet potatoes so they don't choke on it, and a really high quality dog food that's been soaked in water and then mixed into it, and that's where they get their protein from. They don't have very high protein requirements, but they do require some. In the wild, they would get that from a variety of small bugs and insects that they would eat off of the leaves that they're eating, as well as that are crawling on themselves. And then here in captivity, we just choose to supplement that with the high quality dog food, and then once they get 2 years old, we transition them, kind of slowly getting them off of that rice mixture more onto zucchini and squash and a variety of other vegetables, as well as a lot of leafy material. So in the wild, they have like 95% leaf material, and then that other 5% is the protein from the bugs and things like that. And occasionally, if a sloth were to come across like a small bird's nest with really young baby birds in it, they would probably eat those. But for the most part, they get that from bugs. And then we just supplement it here with the hard-boiled eggs and the dog food.
He looks like he's got a baby food little mask, like a little baby. I was wondering what it was made out of. I'm guessing the sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Feel he's a lot softer than what they actually look like. A lot of times they look really coarse, wiry. And if you were to look at each individual hair of a sloth under a microscope, you would see a lot of tiny micro cracks all throughout each hair. And that's what allows them to, once they're rained on, that rainwater gathers in those hairs, and that's what starts to form that algae that they use for camouflage. But it also plays a really important role in the moths that they have living all throughout their fur. So in the wild, they have hundreds of moths that live all over them, and they rely on those moths to be able to get the bacteria that they use to digest their food. So they do have a symbiotic relationship with the moths, meaning that the sloths need the moths and the moths need sloths. In the wild, neither one would be able to live without the other one. So once a week when the sloth comes down to use the bathroom, they do go down to the base of the tree to do so, and it's only once a week because their digestive tracts are really slow, and when they're down there, that's when they're most exposed to things that could potentially grab them. So they come down, they hold on to the base of the tree, they wiggle their little booty around to go to the bathroom, and the moths that are living on them will feel that little wiggle, and they come down and lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth. And so it takes 3 weeks of the browns for last week's eggs, or this week's larva, or next week's moths. So it takes 3 weeks for that cycle to be completely, come full circle. And then once those moths climb back up onto the sloth, then that's when they are able to repopulate that. I need to try to close this door because I need to try to keep him out here. Do you think that you could stand up for me and just kind of support him on his back and underneath his booty so I can move this chair real quick?
No, did I scare you, buddy? I moved too fast.
Are you going to just come to the end, or are you going to come right over there? So Flash is on some medicine that he gets once a day. And since he's down here right now, I was gonna see if I could keep him down. And let him close his door, that way he doesn't go back in.
This is be cooperating.
He looked like he was heading right for that opening where he could climb back in there. There we go.
Hey, boy.
What do you think? Are you finally awake this morning? He had a little bit of a slower morning when he was not wanting to come down. And we never force our sloths or any of our animals to do anything they don't feel comfortable with doing. This morning he was sleeping in and he didn't have to come down first thing. He just now got to where he came down. Are you getting hungry? Did you finally find your appetite?
Where you going, buddy?
He sees me moving around.
He said, where's the snack? Recognizing the sound of the refrigerator, maybe?
Yeah, so since their eyesight is so poor, they can hear things like that, and they're like, something is coming my way. And they do recognize us by our voices, so since they can't really distinguish who's who by looking at them, they can't distinguish who we are by our voices. That's what they have to go based off of. You smacking your lips. You already had your breakfast this morning, buddy. Hey, bud. You getting hungry? He says, not that one. You got all your food hand fed too, you'd be pretty picky as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes he just thinks he's hungry.
Oh.
Where you going, buddy? So some scientists actually speculate that when they're turned that way, looking upside down, that's actually their way of seeing right side up. And then if they were to fall out of the tree, which they do on average about once a week, when they fall out of that tree and they're on their belly crawling, that's like everything is upside down for them. And it makes sense because everything else inside of the sloth's body is geared to be an upside down animal. And so because of that, it just kind of makes sense that their eyesight would be as well.
Well, and that's how the human eye works, and we reverse it anyway, so it would make sense that there's an evolutionary, like basis for it, so.
Everything else inside of the sloth is designed to be upside down, from his circulatory system to the digestive tract, the one-way valves that they have that just allows food to go into their stomach and not back out, and everything in between, so. And the locking mechanisms they have in their claws that allow them to hang for so long without getting tired because they're expending no energy to do so. They're clamped down like that. You say you probably started like 5 minutes late or so.
Yeah.
We went about 6 minutes over now, so
Okay.
we'll be getting from you. His encounters are only 20 minutes right now. We're working him up to longer durations.
He said, I'm ready. Time's up.
When we first get them, they're only like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And so their arms are so small that they can't wrap their arms around our torso, and this is how we have to carry them, just around their arms like this. All right, we'll head back out here and sanitize our hands one more time.
Okay.
Then you have Zoe later in the day tonight?
Yep.
Okay.
See you later, Flash.
chairs over there.
Okay. Is this Flash?
Mm-hmm.
I heard about Flash.
Yes. Flash isn't part of our encounter, but, he's just, yeah, okay, he's just hanging out here.
Did they Facebook Live, or you can Facebook Live this?
Yes, right now we are live on,
Yeah, tell Dana Paul that they can.
yeah, we're on Facebook Live.
He's gonna go first anyway.
Okay. Alright. So when I turn him around, he's gonna wrap his legs around your torso first, and then you would just support him underneath his belly. Sloths do have a really poor eyesight, so when we are petting him, we're going to go nice and slow down his back, just like this. We don't want to get up too close to his face or anything like that, because that can startle him. So I'll go ahead and twist him around, I'll hold on to you first, and then you put your hands underneath his booty.
Did you say Facebook Live?
Yes. But he's looking at me like he wants some food. He's getting a snack out here. This is the rest of his breakfast. If you want to hold this in one hand, kind of hold it just about right there, and he'll turn around and get that if he wants to. They have to kind of hold it up a little bit closer to his face. They do have poor eyesight, but what they lack in their eyesight, they make up for in their sense of smell and sense of hearing.
And that's Zoe.
This is Dash.
This is Dash. And then this is Flash.
Yes.
Hey, Flash. I heard you're not covered.
He is not. He was not raised in the same way that Dash was. So taken, if you were to try to have an encounter like this with a sloth that was taken from the rainforest, it would be completely different. It would not go the same whatsoever. All of our sloths here were born and raised in captivity, even Flash, but he was not raised in the same way that Dash was. So Dash was conditioned from a young age to enjoy this type of interaction. Before he was even weaned from his mother, he was spending short times holding on to the breeder, and it was never stressful for either of them, because the breeder would always stay right close to the mother while he was holding the baby. So mom's never stressed out, therefore baby's never stressed out, and it was always a positive interaction with that.
He seems pretty relaxed. Look at me again, because he was looking at me sticking out his tongue. That's why I was trying to get you.
I think sometimes he forgets how long his tongue is because he leaves it halfway sticking out most of the time. The service in here is not really the best.
There we go. Notice that? Yeah, that's you.
So their eyesight is really poor. They have a condition that's called rod monochromacy. That means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. So we have cone cells in the back of our eyes that allows us to see color. But since they lack those cells, they are colorblind. Not only that, but the rod cells that they have allows them to see motion, so they can see things moving, but they can't really distinguish what it is. It just kind of is all blobs and shapes to them. So they can see the silhouette of me and you standing here, but he probably can't necessarily distinguish the difference between me or you. But he knows that I'm over here because he hears me talking and he recognizes my voice.
Okay.
And they also do have a really good sense of smell, so in the mornings if Flash is having kind of a slow morning, not really wanting to come down and interact, all we have to do is go up there and or into his enclosure and just kind of blow a banana up towards him, and he smells that pretty quickly and he'll start coming down for it. But just a little bit of incentive goes a long way for these guys. But banana we do have to just give him in moderation, because that is a fruit that's pretty high in fructose, and that's a little bit more difficult for them to break down.
I gotcha. So, like, where are they native? Is it the Amazon?
Central and South America.
Central, okay.
Yeah, like the rainforest. wonder how they're able to hold on to the branches for such long periods of time. And how Flash is right now, just holding on, and it looks completely effortless. He may actually extend all the way down just by hanging on by his two back feet here in a second, which he does quite often. And that for us would be extremely difficult to do, you know, trying to withstand all of your body weight holding on by just, you know, your hands would be pretty difficult. And that's because we're using muscles and energy to do that. But for them, they're not. So right now, he's just holding on by his two back feet. And he's not expending any muscles or using muscles or energy to do that. That's just natural for him. All of the muscles and tendons and ligaments in his forearms and in his legs are so tight that snap down around the branch like that is just natural. And that's their relaxed state, so he's not spending any energy to do that. You may be looking for a little treat if you wanted to hand feed him some of these. I don't know if he's gonna want to take any because he's been pretty picky the past few days. He's been looking for rice. You have to bring it all the way up to his mouth. You have to put it all the way in front there, and if he decides he wants it, he'll take it. Surprised he took it first try. Usually it takes him a minute to think about it if he wants to or not. Not very many of that.
Good stuff.
And you can see with him hanging all the way upside down like that, every system inside of him is basically inverted because he's completely upside down. His digestive tract has only a one-way valve that leads into his stomach and does not allow anything to come back out. And he needs that because if he did, we have two-way valves. And if, you know, I were to try to do a handstand and swallow some food,
Yeah.
it'd be pretty difficult. It would probably come back out on me because we do have two-way valves. But his food will, the peristalsis will bring it down his esophagus, and then once it meets that valve, it will go into his stomach and not back out.
I'm sorry. I know. Let me get out of my phone and pay attention. Got it? You got it?
He must have found his appetite. You're pretty picky the past few mornings.
Oh, yeah?
That's
Keep that coming.
something interesting about sloths too, is that it takes their digestive tract 30 days to digest everything that's in it from start to finish. And so because of that, because it's such a slow process, their system kind of has like a little internal off switch that they can just flip as soon as they get full. Their system tells them, hey, I'm backing up, you need to stop eating. And then they'll stop eating for, you know, a couple hours or the rest of the day until their system tells them, okay, you need to start eating again. And they'll start eating. They're definitely not like myself in the fact that I can have a full meal and still feel like I want a sweet treat afterwards. But they don't have the same system.
Good. Good.
And so you can see a lot of times when he'll be eating and just over and over and over, then all of a sudden it just shuts off. We're good. What do you think, bud? Let's do this for it.
Smell something over here? I got a bunch of pictures. You want some more?
I got more.
Is that it?
Sometimes he has to think about it too. I've even offered him one end of a veggie, and he's turned his nose up at that, and it's been like the only one I've had left. So then I turn it around and offer him the other end. He's like, okay, yeah, that's what I want. It's like, that's literally the same vegetable.
Oh, my bad. My bad, buddy.
Stress squash.
Better? Is it more? Is he soft?
Oh, yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, Now, they're a lot softer than people think, because they see pictures of sloths in the wild that have a lot of moss and algae and really coarse fur.
This one looks cool.
Yeah. And you can pet him too, just go with the grain of the hair down his back. You can feel he's a little bit more coarse than Dash is, but
I'm gonna go sweet potato again. Yeah. Got it. Oh, they're soft. Do you groom them?
nope, they groom themselves. They don't have any
Okay.
natural scent glands, musk glands, or an odor to them. And in the rainforest, they feel the same as, or they smell the same as their environment. They have a lot of moss and algae and things that grow on them, so they just smell like the rest of the rainforest, which makes it pretty difficult, makes it pretty difficult for a snake to even detect them, because they hunt by temperature differences and sense of smell. And so since they don't smell like anything and they're the same temperature as the air around them because they can't maintain their own body temperature, the snakes virtually can't find them. If they were, it would just be by happenstance. But the number one thing that's out to get a sloth is a harpy eagle. From seeing from the tops of the tree, you can spot a sloth a lot easier because they don't have as much moss on their bellies as they do on their backs. And it's a lot easier. Their claws are kind of like coat hangers, where pulling down on a coat hanger is, difficult. It's just going to break before you're not going to be able to undo it. But lifting up off of the rack, you can get it off a lot easier, which is why the eagle has more success with grabbing a hold of them. The sloths have enough grip strength to be able to withstand a 35, 40-pound big cat holding onto their back, trying to pull them down out of a tree. Obviously, they're going to sustain a lot of injury from that, but they're going to be able to hold on through an event like that.
Really? So yeah, I would think jaguars would be, yeah.
Jaguars and ocelots.
Sure, cute dude.
So we do just have the two-toed sloths here, but in the world there are two-toed and three-toed sloths. The three-toed sloths have 3 on the front and on the back, where the two-toed just have 2 on the front and 3 on the back. And some differences between the two are that the two-toed sloths tend to be just a little bit bigger. The three-toed sloths don't get quite as big.
Are both of these two-toed?
Yes, they are. So to keep a three-toed sloth in captivity is virtually impossible because their diets are extremely sensitive. They can really only eat the leaves of the Cercopia trees, which are what they live in.
Okay.
And to own a three-toed sloth, you basically have to be a millionaire and have a private jet to fly you to and from the rainforest, get you those leaves every week.
I got you.
So the two-toed sloths, obviously, they don't have access to brown rice, sweet potatoes, zucchini, squash, things like that, but they can have their diets varied and still be able to survive off of that. But the three-toed sloths, those are the ones that you see pictures of that have the bands across their eyes, and then their faces are a little bit more smushed in. And a lot of times you'll see pictures of them where they're hanging all 4 feet onto the branch like Flash is right now.
Yeah.
But their neck is actually turned all the way back, looking at the camera that's below them. Because they have 3 extra vertebrae in the cervical spine that allows their head to rotate backwards. Now, Dash, a lot of times he'll look back at me like that, where he's,
I noticed.
looking back like that. But what I'm meaning is that he can actually take his neck, the three-toed sloths, and twist it like that all the way back. Because they have 3 extra vertebrae in their cervical spine. The two-toed sloths cannot do that. He can bend his back to look at me, but he can't turn it around, twist it like that. But where they lack those 3 vertebrae in their cervical spine, they make up for it in their lumbar spine. They actually have 3 extra vertebrae in the lower part of their spine there that allows him to, when he was extended all the way down, oftentimes what they'll do is they extend all the way down like that and say behind them is a branch where they have some leaves back there that they want. They can actually twist their spine all the way back like that, rotate it back to be able to get what's behind them. I can only go about halfway,
Right.
but he can go all the way back to turn it behind himself. Yeah. And the three-toed sloths actually have a little bit of a tail that sticks out. They use that tail when they go down to use the bathroom. They kind of swirl that tail around on the floor of the rainforest, and sometimes in the dung pile that they've had the week prior.
Yeah.
So it's thought that they actually have a more higher population of moths that live on their backs because of that, because when they come down to use the bathroom, that's when the moths will come down off of the sloth and lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth. So when the three-toed sloth has that little tail that they swirl around back there, that actually enables them to pick up even more moths from that pile. So it kind of repopulates them every time.
Gotcha.
And they need that to happen because they do have a symbiotic relationship with those moths, meaning that both parties benefit. So the sloths in the wild need the moths, and the moths need the sloths in order to survive. Obviously, we don't have any moths here that live on the captive sloths, and they don't need them, but in the wild they do. And it's actually a really cool relationship that they do have with those moths. So once a week when the sloth comes down to use the bathroom, the moths that are on the back of the sloth will come down and lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth. So last week's eggs are this week's larvae, and this week's larvae are next week's moths. So it takes 3 weeks, a full rotation from egg to moth, to be able to crawl back up onto the sloth. At that point, the sloth will go back up into the rainforest with those more moths on them and keep living their lives. So the sloths will actually eat a portion of those moths that are on their backs, and that serves to be their protein source in the wild. They'll eat a small variety of bugs and insects and things like that to get their protein up. And then they'll also use those moths to be able to digest their food. So they'll lick up a portion of the moth's waste off of their backs, and that's where they get the bacteria and able to digest the food that they eat. We use an enzymatic process, and we're born with those enzymes, but sloths are not born with the bacteria that they use to digest their food. They have to get it. They obtain that on day 3 of their lives from their mother, actually. They will lick the mother in the corners of her mouth, because when she eats, those leaves will bubble up with her saliva and foam up in the corners of her mouth. And then the baby will lick that up and get just a little bit of mom's bacteria in her system to start to develop its own bacteria colony. And then they'll keep that bacteria colony the rest of their lives as long as the temperature requirements are met. So if the temperature drops, the sloth's temperature will as well, and that bacteria will really be deteriorated and can be wiped out from that.
So breastfeeding, like they say, like when you, I just had a baby, but they say like when you kiss your baby's head, like it helps you take in those pathogens, and then your body will automatically produce the immunity.
And it's the same thing for the baby too. I mean, raised a baby that's raised by the same family, and all of the different things that that family has been exposed to, when they take home and they kind of introduce that slowly to the baby as well. That's where they build up their immunity, and it's the same thing with these guys.
It's just saying. Is it sweet potatoes, buddy? Sweet potatoes, love tray. Yeah. We're done with zucchini. No more greens.
It's been about half of our time. Did you guys want to switch over to where you can hold Dash for a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, are you done?
So I'll get him from you. You won't have to do anything. He'll eventually just grab onto me, and I'll transfer it over onto you. So if you want to turn out and have a seat there in the blue chair. So he'll wrap his back legs around your waist first, and then you'll support him underneath his boot.
Goodness, you're so soft. But
Here's these if you want to come to the hair. Here's any of this for him. You can offer him to that.
will you take a picture for me? Are you looking for food? I got your food. How do I show it to you?
So I kind of will tip it just like that.
Because
It's
it's
always
always, yeah, I got you.
close.
I'm sorry. I made a mess. Do like a video. Oh, no. about 2 hours from here.
Yep. Where'd you hear about us?
Facebook, I'm
Yeah.
on TikTok.
Yeah. That's where most of our people come from. Our social media platforms definitely grown in the past few months. And that's thanks to Kevin, the one.
Or here, give me my phone.
You guys have any other encounters today, or is it just the sloths?
Just the sloths.
We'll have to keep an eye on our page in the next month or so. We should be getting the next baby sloth in.
There's second baby's dying.
When we first get them in, they're only like 1.5 pounds. They're extremely small. It'll be pretty difficult to book at first because we book them for just 10-minute encounters to begin with. And then it'll slowly increase as they get just a little bit older and more comfortable.
How much does Dash weigh?
Dash is about 5 pounds. That's before a bathroom trip. Now, after a bathroom trip, he can be about 4.5. So since they only go once a week, when they do go, they expel about 1/3 of their entire body weight.
Really?
You wouldn't think it by looking at the outside of them, but sloths actually have a total of 46 ribs. That's 23 sets of ribs. Yeah, that's double what we have. And with that, it's kind of like a little protective casing for them. On average, they fall out of the tree about once a week, whether that's due to something that has been daring enough to come out on that limb after them, and they've just got to the end of the branch and they've fallen off, or it's been a miscalculated step where they're going to grab for the next branch, when they actually grab and they grab their own leg. Since their eyesight is so poor, that is something that happens occasionally. But it's not an issue for the sloth because with all of those ribs, it's kind of like a protective casing for them. And they'll just get back up and climb back up the tree. Their bones are also extremely pliable. And so they bend, they flex with the sloth as it falls down. And they're able to just get back up and go back up the tree. And so if something has been daring enough to go after that sloth, it's kind of best case scenario. If both of the sloth and the cat or whatever it is that's been chasing them out on the branch would fall out of the tree, because the sloth is built to withstand a fall from up to 100 feet in the air, and the cat is almost definitely not going to survive that type of fall. The cat's goal is to try to land on all fours, and if you land on all fours from 100 feet in the air, you're probably going to break all fours. So they're going to be laying there for a while, and the sloth will just get back up and go back up the tree. Everything inside of a sloth is designed to be an upside down animal, from their digestive tract, their circulatory system, the locking mechanisms that they have in their claws that allows them to hang for so long upside down, and everything in between. So even their eyesight, some scientists speculate that when they're upside down like that, that's actually their way of seeing right side up. Makes sense because everything else is geared that way as well. Their circulatory system is extremely adaptable, so that when Flash is hanging all fours like that naturally, he's getting circulation all the way to the ends of his claws. And then when he inverts himself all the way upside down where he's just hanging on his back 2 feet, he's still getting circulation everywhere.
Okay.
Whereas for us, we're built to be upright, and our feet are the lowest point, and our heads are the highest point. And if we invert that, do a handstand, all of the blood's gonna rush to our heads. But for them, it's very adaptive. and it changes with whatever their position that they're in, so that they still supply blood everywhere. I think sometimes he forgets how long his tongue is, because he leaves it sticking halfway down most of the time.
So how old is Dash?
Dash is about 9 months old.
And then how old is?
Flash is about 6 years old, a little over
Okay.
6. And when we got him, he was already 3, and we got him from a facility where he was just observation only, so he never interacted with people.
Gotcha.
So when he came here, it was a slow adjustment for him to, start to have people in his enclosure, talking to him, trying to get him to come down. Obviously, we didn't start introducing the encounters like this right away. It took him about, 2.5 years to get to that point where John would go in there and work with him every day and talk to him and just get him comfortable with being around people. And then eventually Flash got to the point where sloths are very routine animals, so we would get in here about 9:30 in the mornings and start chopping up veggies and preparing everybody's food. And he would hear that, and he would come all the way from the top of his enclosure all the way down. And you can kind of see on top of his door frame there where his little smear marks. Started smearing his nose around in the corner there, trying to get us to come in there and feed him. And so then we eventually built this branch that comes out here so that before we were, ready preparing his food, he could just come out in the kitchen and hang out with us. And so then that's what started the whole idea of, well, maybe we should just start doing encounters with him, because people want to come and feed him.
Yeah.
We feed him anyway in the mornings, and he comes and hangs out in here. So that's what time we started doing his encounters, was first thing in the morning around 10 to 10:30, and then 10:30 to 11. And this morning he had a slow morning where he wasn't wanting to come down. He was just hanging out up there
Yeah.
having a lazy morning, so he came down kind of late, which is why he's out now.
I gotcha, okay.
So
we
we
just
only,
left up.
yeah.
That's nice.
We only book his encounters for first thing in the morning like that. We don't book anything later because it's not guaranteed that he's gonna come back down. He doesn't actively seek human interaction like Dash and Zoe do. They were raised in a completely different way where this is what they, love doing. Whereas people, for him, it's just kind of a food source. So he does have his favorites though. John was the primary caregiver for him for the first 2 years, and that's whose voice he really got to learn. And in the mornings, if I'm going in there and I'm talking to him and he's not really coming down for me, all John has to do is just stick his head in there and go, "Hey, Flash," in his tone of voice, and Flash starts coming down pretty quickly. He recognizes that. I feel like half of my job is trying to be a professional chef for these guys.
Where are we going, my man?
Get everything graded up how it's supposed to be. He probably sees me moving around, and he's wondering if I'm making something for him.
Is that new snacks? Do you want to see these hungry? Maybe the little one. I think that was, yeah. What has she got? I know, right? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I dumped that out there off the bus. I thought it was more sticky than that. I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, no.
He's like, I'll take some of that.
I'm so sorry, I did not mean to make a mess. It's okay.
usually they're the messy ones, and I gotta clean up
I
after
know,
them.
it's totally, yeah, role reversal.
That's alright.
Do they have accidents? Do they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Flash
I was gonna say,
especially.
do they pee and poop on people?
Well, no, so they only go to the bathroom once a week, and the only time that they do, they come down to the base of the tree to do so, yeah. So they don't ever go to the bathroom hanging in the tree or holding on to a person. They have to be holding on to the base of the tree, and they kind of scoot their booty around and do a little potty dance. So no, they don't ever have any accidents like that, but they are very messy eaters, so a lot of times they'll have, messes everywhere.
I'm sorry, buddy. You were so soft. I got it out of here. We'll get there. Give me just a minute. I did not mean to do that, man. I'm impressed. You only go pooping and pee once a week, though?
So when they do go, it's a massive amount. It's about 1/3 of their entire body weight.
Just evacuate them.
And if you think about it, I mean, the time that they're most exposed to things that could possibly get them is when they're down on the floor of the rainforest. their systems are already extremely slow to digest everything, so they only really need to go to the bathroom once a week, but it would be kind of problematic if they had to go more often,
Gotcha.
because then they'd be down there exposed a lot more often.
But they can't just survive like in the tree and just let it go.
And that's because of the sloth-moth symbiotic relationship. If they did that, if they were to just poop and pee wherever, whenever, those moths would never have an opportunity to go down and lay their eggs, because the moths can only live on the back of the sloth. They can't fly around the rainforest and live anywhere else. So they require that sloth to go down to that same poop pile every single time, so that they can, crawl down off of the sloth, lay their larvae, and then crawl back up onto the sloth. And so they have to come down to that same pile, because then once that larva develops into moths, then those moths will crawl up onto the sloth. They don't fly up onto them. You guys have any other excursions down here today, or?
Just kind of a quick road trip.
Yeah.
Just some fun. I saw you had like a ton of encounters. I saw the kangaroos and monkeys. We talked about doing the monkey with Sloth.
Yeah, you'll have to keep an eye on the monkey encounters too. We just have added those recently, and they're going pretty well. We weren't exactly sure how long to schedule them at first, because with monkeys, they can be, kind of not really unpredictable, but it's kind of hard to read a monkey sometimes. And so it was trying to decide if it's going to take him, 15 to 30 minutes to actually warm up to the person to come up to him, because they're not like sloths where I can just set the sloth on you and the sloth's going to be content.
Yeah.
That monkey's going to come up to you whenever they want to, if they even want to.
Yeah.
So at first we scheduled our first encounter for 45 minutes, but within the first 10 minutes, Georgie was already climbing onto the person and everything. So he's doing really well. But here in the next couple months, we should be getting him a mate. I say mate, it'll be a play mate.
Yeah.
We're not planning on breeding with them or anything.
Okay.
But then she'll be coming in on the farm as well. And it'll take her several months to warm up to everybody first, and then slowly start doing encounters, but it'll be pretty cool when she does, and we'll have 2 of them. And it seems like we're growing and changing and getting bigger and everything every day.
You did a big operation, yeah.
Because just like a year and a half ago, we only had like 3 employees, 2 of which being the owners, and then now we've got 19, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
These sloths are pretty popular. Yeah, I like those utopia names too.
Yeah, we tend to go for the Disney or children's books and things like that. The couples names, because we've got Flash Dash, Zoe, and then our next girl will name Chloe, so it just kind of
that's cute,
rhymes,
yeah.
goes together. Our kangaroos, we had Rough and Tough, we had Tom and Jerry, we've got Max and Ruby, just all, rhyming stuff like that. So we've got the baby kangaroo that's there right now. We just got her like a week and a half ago from a breeder. Because we've got a Joey out there in the pouch right now with mama. It's about 6 months old. At around 6 months, they start to jump out of the pouch and spend short periods of time outside of the pouch. And at that point, if you're trying to raise a friendly kangaroo, you have to wean it from mom and you bottle raise it. And then that way you have friendly kangaroos. Because if we didn't, the mom's friendly, but that baby, if we left it to its own raising out there, that baby would never come up to us. So they're still very much wild animals, and given their own instincts, they will be wild. But if you bottle raise them, they only need to be bottle raised for like 10 months, but we keep them on the bottle for 18 months so that it was just constant bonding with people.
I gotcha.
So we don't want any animals here that are timid or, unsure of people. We want all of the animals to genuinely enjoy the interaction that they have with people, so it's enjoyable for both sides. What are you looking at?
There's snacks. I'm gonna do that again.
You may have gotten full.
Yeah.
box on your nose.
He won't let you, but he jumps pretty hard because they don't really see very well, especially if it's right in front of their face. They can't really see it, so he gets it off on his own time.
I'll just let it get. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, think about it for a minute. And their claws do continuously grow throughout their lives. We keep all the natural bark and everything on the trees, that way they naturally wear down over time.
Okay.
So you can feel probably, while Dash is pinched around your waist, that he is more clamped down and a little bit more sharp,
Little
because he
bit.
doesn't climb as much. But
Yeah, the cartoon character, like this reminds me of like a werewolf. But you're nothing like a werewolf. So do you have any breeders here? Do you do any breeding here or just
we
mostly?
don't of the sloths. We don't have any future plans of breeding the sloths or anything, just because the sloth system is extremely sensitive. And with any changes or, manipulations, anything, if it gets off schedule, it can really mess them up.
Mhm.
So owning adult sloths are already, really time consuming, and everything has to be on the dot, and adding a baby to that mix can be, is a lot more time consuming. So we want to continue just with what we've got for now. We've got so many other animals currently that we've got a lot of other things to focus on. So we do, we do have an intact male kangaroo out there. And he does obviously his job. We've got a Joey out there now, so we have small things like that.
They're the little kangaroos though, right? Or the kangaroos that are right here?
The kangaroos that are in here, this is the first baby that we've had that's out in the pouch right now. The kangaroos that we have in here, we got from the breeder.
Okay, but are they full grown or are they?
They know. They're
Okay,
still
those are
babies,
babies,
yeah.
okay. What are the others? Are those anteaters?
No, so those are actually coatimundis. They look like a mixture between an
Okay.
anteater and a raccoon,
Uh-huh.
but no, those are coatimundis. Ask me where they're native to. I'm in the sloth room all the time, so I don't know a whole lot about the other ones. But we do have a breeding pair of coatimundis out there,
Okay.
and she is pregnant. She's due any day.
Ooh.
She's been extremely chattery recently,
Uh-huh.
and cranky to both the male that she's with and the male that's beside her.
Yeah.
All the time trying to pick fights with both of them, so she's pretty close.
Okay.
But the last time she had her baby, she had it all the way up at the very top of the enclosure, and the thing that's back, like the little box that hides,
Yeah.
from, they can get back there and hide if they want to. She had it back there, and she would not let us up there to look at it for the longest time.
Really?
Until it started to get big enough where it would come out and poke its head around the corner.
Yeah.
And start to venture down. Then we took it and bottle raised it.
Uh-huh.
Because the same thing with them, if you let her raise that baby, even though she's extremely, friendly and would come down to us and everything, that baby would not be. So we do have to bottle raise them. And she raised it for the first half, and we finished out the rest.
You look like you were getting sleepy for a second.
Are they nocturnal? For the most part, they're not considered fully nocturnal because they do obviously wake up during the day, but they do move around a lot more at night just because, that's when a lot of other things that could potentially be out to get them are sleeping. So they do move around more at nighttime. So we did start a couple minutes late, so we went a couple minutes over, so it is time for us.
Oh, that was so much fun. Thank you.
He won't have to do anything, he'll just come on to me. Go. When we first get them, they're so small that they can't even wrap around our torso like that. We have to carry him like a little football like this, so he's still used to being carried this way occasionally.
It's like, you're a cutie, dude. Thank you, buddy. Let's feed you.
He must have liked you guys, because like I said, he's been picky the past several days and opened up for you guys. We'll go out here and we'll sanitize our hands one more time.
Okay.